Hello, this is the 5th video of 6 in which I am trying to explain how the adjectives work in Latin. In this 5th video I want to talk about irregular comparisons. There are, I hope you'll be glad to hear, just 6 of these irregular comparisons. I'll give you the positive form of each adjective first. There is bonus, or good, malus, or bad, magnus, great, multus, much, parvus, little or small. Then we have 2 very odd irregular ones, senex, old, juvenis, young. Let's see how these behave in their positive form. I'll start by showing how they might be supposed to behave. Positive bonus, comparative bonior, or better, superlative bonissimus, or best, or very good. But no, that is not how they form their comparatives and superlatives. Not one of them indeed. For bonus and the other 5 adjectives of its kind, the comparative and superlative forms are not as they might be supposed. Let us then see how they are formed. We go back to looking at the positive forms of these adjectives. And we'll start with bonus again, bonus or good. The comparative, not bonior, but melior. You might think this a sad irregularity, something new, and that ought to be unnecessary. However, look again at melior. From this we get the English word ameliorate. Ameliorate, in the sense of to make better. I came into politics for no other reason than to ameliorate the condition of the labouring masses. You can believe that one if you like, but the word ameliorate does exist, and if you know it, the comparison melior should be no great surprise. It doesn't follow logically from bonus, but it does have a footprint in English, and this should make it easier to learn. So we have melior, or better, the comparative form of bonus, or good. Let's see what happens with malus, or bad, peior. Again, you might regard this deviation from regularity with a certain impatience. It's just that look closely at peior, and bear in mind that until 100 years ago, I in Latin was often pronounced in English as J, so pejor. There's your footprint in English, pejorative. He spoke pejoratively about my personal appearance. Or he said that my personal appearance was, in his opinion, rather worse than I think it to be. So think pejorative, and you have peior, worse. Let's pass to magnus, maior, or greater. Again, look at that I in the middle, and think that until 100 years ago, in England and the English-speaking world, that would have been pronounced as J. What do we get from that? Major. The major part of the funding was wasted, or the greater part of the funding was wasted. No trouble with that one either. From multus, we get plus, or more. I don't think I need to look for footprints in English for that one, do I? No. Parvus, or little, becomes minor, or less. Of course, in modern English, we pronounce minor as minor. No further comment, I think. But let's have a look at these 2 last, which I've separated somewhat from the others because, as I said earlier, they are very irregular. Not just irregular, but perhaps eccentric. So, what is the comparative of senex, or old? It's natu maior, greater by birth, or older. When you see this sort of construction, you really do suspect that at some time in the development of their language, the Romans just gave up trying and threw any old form together. So, positive senex, or old, becomes comparative natu maior, older. Same with juvenis, natu minor, lesser by birth or younger. Very well, let's turn to the superlative forms and let's come back to bonus and melior. What is the superlative form here? Optimus. Do I need to say anything about a footprint in English? I think it would be optimal, or perhaps I'm just being optimistic if I left it at that. The superlative of bonus is optimus. Of malus, we have pessimus. I think I would be taking a very pessimistic view of the viewers of this video if I needed to look for an English footprint for that one. The superlative of magnus is maximus. I'll give up here on trying to be witty. Magnus Major Maximus. It is an irregular progression, but at every stage in that progression there are footprints in English that mean you don't really need to learn these. You simply need to be aware of them, and whenever you see them, you'll know what they are. Multus becomes plurimus, or the most. That's not quite as obvious as optimus, pessimus, maximus, but it probably isn't that far off as obvious. Parvus becomes minimus. I won't look for uses of minimal or minimum. Let it stand as minimus. And then we come back to these two odd ones, senex and juvenis. You've got eccentric comparatives and eccentric, but in their own rather weird way, perfectly regular superlatives. Natu maximus, natu minimus. And these are the 6 irregular comparisons. You need to know these because these are used all the time in Latin, but I hope you'll agree with me that they are no particular effort to learn. This being said, I'll fill up the rest of this video by showing you the forms of these irregular comparisons. Let's do bonus again, and here's the usual table, and look at the numbers at the top. Yes, bonus, bona, bonum. Did you need that? Here's the rest. It's a standard 2-1-2 adjective, nothing more to be said. Let's have a look at melior. This is a comparative, so it's a group 2 adjective. Here it is. The nominative masculine and feminine is melior. The nominative neuter is melius. And there's the rest of it. If you've watched my video on the comparative adjectives, I'm either wasting your time by giving this to you again, or I'm engaging in potentially useful revision. Oh, and here is the declension of Maximus, another perfectly standard 2-1-2 adjective. In conclusion for this video then, I will say that there are these 6 irregular comparisons. There are these 6 adjectives that do not have the comparative and superlative forms that you would expect them to have, but in most cases these irregularities have such obvious footprints in English that it is almost zero work to learn these irregular comparisons. And once you have learned that the comparisons are irregular and how they are formed, you'll find that the results decline in exactly the same way as other adjectives of their kind. And there it is. That's all I have to say about these irregular comparisons. Not then a long video, and of course I thank you for having watched it.